Play ball. Hot off the press, handicappers from Wager Talk, SportsMemo, and the Gold Sheet have collaborated on the 2023 Wager Talk Media MLB Betting Guide. From World Series odds to regular season win totals and everything in between, this year's betting guide features previews on all 30 teams, all 6 divisions, and season-long awards like the Cy Young, MVP, and Rookie of the Year. Each preview contains key roster acquisitions and departures to help you get up to speed before opening day. Visit wt.buzz/MLB23 to download your free guide, and we'll see you in the batter's box.
Welcome to the NBA Triple Double Show, powered by SportsMemo. I'm your host, Ronald Cabang, also known as handicapper on SportsMemo.com, at handicapper sports on Twitter. I'll be joined by Moneyline Matt and Jeff Michaels to break down the 4 games that are happening tonight. Before we get into those games, I do want to talk about SportsMemo.com and what we got going on over there. I don't know if we have any big promos, but we always have free picks and analysis on a daily basis. We got the free live odds page. We got deals pages as well. And it also, I think on the deals page, you can see what's going on over at wagertalk.com as well. So head over to the site. All it takes is an email address to sign up, and you get access to all those things, along with the picks and packages that are on sale from all the Sports Memo handicappers. With that said, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button before you go. It only takes a couple of clicks and helps our show grow tremendously. With that said, let's get Matt and Jeff up here with me. What is up, guys? This is a big slate for a playoff day of NBA playoffs. 4 games tonight. Some key games here. Some key closeout games here. And one of those games here, first one up, is the Bucks and the Heat. What are you guys' thoughts on closeout games, real quick, before we go? I mean, 3-1 in a lot of these series with the seed. With the lower seed being the one up 3-1, I know, Jeff, you're probably thinking about some trends in that angle, right?
Yeah, there's some crazy ones looking at these. Like you said, lower seeds. How about closing out a series after back-to-back wins at home? They're just 4-17 straight up, 5-16 against the spread. That's for the Knicks, Lakers, and Heat tonight. And when you talk about those higher seeds facing elimination in the first round of the playoffs, that better team or higher seeded team, 10-2 against the spread in the last 12. So it's looking towards the Cavs, Grizzlies, and Bucks just based off of those. But obviously we know that's not enough for a play. So we got some more to say, I'm
Yeah,
sure, about those games.
we definitely got more to say on that note. Matt, man, last couple of days in the NBA, kind of boo-boo. How's your week been going?
So my week's been okay. Monday I ended up going 2-0. Yesterday I had one player prop, lost on the hook. So we're still doing good though. We're up 4 units on the week. I had 2 3-unit plays that I won, a 2-unit play that I lost. Coming off a winning weekend, we're top 3 in past 3 days, 7 days, and 30 days. So feeling really, really good. And guys, that study guide that I put out is absolutely fire. We had the Knicks winning that one outright. We had the Lakers winning that one. We had the Kings plus 2.5. So a lot of good stuff on that playoff study guide. I do it for the Eastern Conference and Western Conference every single round. Going to be completely free. All you got to do is download it. So if you're someone who does like playoff futures, playoff series futures, playoff series parlays, stuff like that, definitely keep an eye on that, because once this round ends, I'm going to get right back to it, have another one out for you guys completely free once again. And it just gives you a good hold on what's going on in the series, injuries to look for. It has all the against the spread stats. So again, another thing that we're doing over at Sports Memo and Wager Talk, just to try and give you a little bit more of an edge.
Yep. All right. Well, let's get into the games, guys. First one up, Knicks and the Cavs. Knicks lead the series 3-1. They've been doing it with amazing defense, offensive boards, creating extra possessions for themselves. All 4 games have gone under so far as well. Cavs haven't even reached 100 at any point in this series so far. Let's start with you, Jeff. Here, do you look towards another under in this game? Both teams are looking pretty healthy, but it seems like nobody can really score in this series here.
Yeah, I'm looking for a big game out of somebody here. I think I got the look on it in my best bet here, but I think there's gonna be a little more scoring. I don't know if I'm willing to bet the over after the numbers that we've seen in this series so far. But I do think that there's potential for one of these stars in this game really to go off. I mean, you look at the Knicks, they need some help in terms of offensive production. I mean, they are up 3-1, obviously, but they only have 4 players averaging double-digit points, and they only have 2 guys on their roster in the postseason that are averaging over 15 points per game. But I think really the biggest difference here has been the rebounding. I mean, I know the Knicks were number 2 in the regular season in rebounding differential, and they're number 2 in the postseason right now too. They only have 2 guys that are over 6'9" on that roster, and they got 4 guys that are grabbing 6 or more boards per game. So that's a huge difference. And they're 9-5 against the spread against this Cavs team in the last 3 years. So there's a lot going towards this Knicks. I mean, there's an endless list of trends. 23-11 against the spread in the second half of the season, 17-7 off a home win this year, 13-4 against the spread on the road after 2 or more consecutive wins. So, I mean, there's an endless list of things that point towards the Knicks, but Cleveland 8-3 against the spread as a single-digit favorite after back-to-back games allowing opponents to shoot 45% or better. And they're one of the best teams at home in the league. So I'm attacking a player prop here for my best bet, but I'm hesitant to side with all those trends on the Knicks just because Cleveland's got their back against the wall and they're playing at home here.
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks have been able to, you talked about rebounds, right? The Knicks have been limiting Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley in both scoring and in rebounds. Historically, dude, I looked at how number 5 seeds in the playoffs perform on the road in Game 5 of a series when they're up 3-1. In the history of the database, Matt, Jeff, we use SDQL a lot, Killer Sports and other websites, but in the history of the Killer Sports database, there are 2-7 straight up and against the spread, also 7-2 to the under. The average first quarter margin of those games on these tight lines as well, their first quarter margin is -2.5, -4.3 points in the first half margin, and then full game margin -8.8. And we have a line of Cleveland. I think it's minus 5. It's 5.5 right now, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But the last time this happened, where the 5 seed is up 3-1, was in 2020. It was actually the Knicks, but on the other side, they were down. 3-1, right? So the Hawks in the 5 seed ended up smashing the Knicks in that game, even though the trends say to fade that team. That, like I said, the Knicks are in the reverse role today, and now the 5 seed, they're the better team now than they were before. Obviously, I think with the roster makeup, but history says in this situation, the Cavs should be able to not only at the end of the game, but it seems like wire to wire for the most part. What are your thoughts on this one, Matt? I feel like to me, the under is still calling my name out, even though it's a low total. It just, neither team has hit that. I mean, Cleveland specifically hasn't even hit that century mark at all in the series. But are you seeing anything on the side or the total, or are you sticking with the prop?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think I'll have anything from this game, if I'm being honest. But when breaking it down, to your point, talking about the under, even before the show, we were talking about this. And when evaluating this series ahead of time, and essentially the reason that I took the Knicks in this series, who were an underdog, it's because the Cleveland Cavaliers just don't have scoring right now. If you shut down Donovan Mitchell, there's really just not much else that this team has to, put points on the board. Of course, you have Darius Garland, who's, a solid scorer. He's a very nice facilitator, stuff like that. But when a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers goes against a squad like the New York Knicks, who, when you take a look at it, you got Jarrett Allen, you got Mitchell Robinson, they kind of counter each other out. Then you got Evan Mobley and you got Julius Randle, they kind of counter each other out. So the huge advantage that they always have in their height and in their size just isn't there anymore. So once it cancels each other out, you have to depend more on the outside jump shooting, which, as we know, Donovan Mitchell is a guy who can absolutely go off. But if he's not hitting from the outside and Darius Garland's not hitting from the outside, where are you going to look? Isaac Okoro? Like, come on, that's a little tough. And then you got Chetty Osman coming off the bench. That's a little tough as well. So there's just not all that much that this team has. Karis LeVert, another guy who's just, one game he's going to have 15. The next game he's going to go 1 for 8 and have 2 points. So, that's just how I look at this as well. It's tough for me to see a lot of points here. And, if I were to go one way, I would go with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the spread, just because you guys know I love it when a team has their back up against the wall. They have to respond. It's a do or die situation. But I would actually look at maybe a player prop or something along those lines. I agree with Jeff and think some of these players have a chance to go off in this matchup. And for me, once again, I would be with the Cavaliers in this spot. And to your point, Ron, I think I would be with the under as well. I don't think that this is going to be one of those games the New York Knicks really go off. And then when you take a look at this New York Knicks bench, they do have very solid defender. McBride, that point guard that they've been using as of late. He's a very, very solid defender. And then you got someone like Josh Hart coming off the bench, Obi Toppin coming off the bench. I still give this edge to the New York Knicks, even though I do think the Cleveland Cavaliers will get this game. And I do think it will be lower scoring again, to your point, Ron.
Yeah, maybe if you like the Knicks, they'll probably take it in the next game at home, right?
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one here, the Lakers and the Grizzlies. Lakers, another 3-1 series where the lower seed is leading in the series. Lakers also getting it done offensively. If it wasn't for getting it done defensively, if it wasn't for overtime in Game 4, the Grizzlies would have stayed under their team total in all 4 games so far this series. It would also have been their fourth straight full game under in the series as well, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Injury perspective, AD, LeBron, and Schroeder all probable. Nothing on the Grizzlies side here, so the Grizzlies are pretty healthy. I mean, I know LeBron and AD is always on the injury report, so maybe that's nothing really of note. From here, the Lakers, man, they just been getting it done with depth and versatility. We've been saying it a lot post All-Star break, especially with Matt on the shows here. But what the Lakers did at the trade deadline really put them in position for where they are today. Matt, let's start with you here. What are your thoughts on this game with the Lakers and the Grizzlies?
Yeah, before we even get into this game, one thing that I really just want to say is this Lakers team is actually starting to scare me. Like, I actually think they can make a run in this Western Conference. I think the depth that they have, I think the shooting that they have, I think the defense that they have, it's very dangerous. And I say it scares me because you guys know I can't stand LeBron James, but you got to speak it how it is. This Lakers team is very, very good. They're very deep. They have height, they have defenders, they have a little bit of everything. And, when you look at that collision course with the Lakers and maybe the Phoenix Suns or even the Denver Nuggets, especially with the Phoenix Suns, they don't have much of a bench. And then as for the Denver Nuggets facing off against the Lakers have a huge edge there defensively. So for me, the road for the Lakers is looking pretty good. Although, getting to this game now, I don't think they get it done here. Okay, originally I said the Lakers would get this done in 7. I don't think it's 7 anymore. I think it's probably 6, I would say. But I think this is going to be a huge spot for the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies were one of the best home teams throughout all of basketball. I think this is a spot where John Morant can bounce back a little bit as well. Desmond Bane we saw get it going. And, Jaren Jackson is kind of the guy who needs to get it going in this spot too. And I know we touched on Tyus Jones last time. He did a little bit, not all that much. But again, to beat this Lakers team, they have a lot of depth with guys like Rui Hachimura, Dennis Schroeder coming off the bench. That they're very deep. So you need your bench to step up, like Salty Aldama. You need guys like that to come out, make shots. And, Roddy has actually been the one coming out, making shots, and even actually been taking more threes than sometimes like Desmond Bane was. So for me, a lot of these guys, their star players just have to be more aggressive. We need to see Desmond Bane do something similar that he did the other night. He was very aggressive, looking for his shot. Actually didn't shoot the 3 ball all that well, and I think that could very, very well potentially change. And then John Morant on top of that, John Morant didn't even have 20 points after that 40-plus point outing. I think he gets back to it because if there is a spot that you take advantage of against this Lakers team, it's generally the point guard. They don't guard the point guard position all that well with D'Angelo Russell at the point guard position or Dennis Schroeder, whoever it may be. And you also have to remember, looking back at last game, there was a point where I believe D'Angelo Russell had 9 straight points, making 3 threes in a row to get this Lakers team back in the game. On the road in Memphis, I don't think anything like that happens. I think this is going to be a spot Memphis does take advantage of being at home. This is still a Lakers team, although I love what they've been doing. I think they've been playing great basketball. They do tend to have a lot of letdowns while on the road. This is an older team. LeBron had a high output outing. So for me, it would be the Grizzlies -4 in this spot.
Grizzlies -4 for Matt. Jeff, what are your thoughts on this one? Are you in alignment with Matt, or are you looking towards another thing here, where maybe the total or another prop?
Yeah, maybe I should have started off the Cavs game with this, but not a play that I gave out as a premium play or anything of the sort. Not anything that I do very often, but personally, I was looking through it this morning. And my first instinct looking at this card was actually to bet a three-team money line parlay with the three teams that have their back against the wall here and get rid of the spread. Because I do feel like they all, are in a situation, like I said, with their backs against the wall. And we kind of saw, especially for Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks, how that turned out last night. The one thing that did stand out to me, I looked at LeBron specifically. He's 7-1 straight up and against the spread on the road in his last 8 attempts to close out a series. But the most recent one was in 2020, which I believe was the year of the bubble. And that was the only one that he had with LA. Everything else was with Cleveland. So he is 1-0, obviously, with LA, but 6-1 with Cleveland. So it is a little bit of a strained sample size there, I guess, because you're looking at an entire different franchise that you're playing with. But I just don't see this Memphis team continuing to shoot the way that they have. I mean, teams that have shot back-to-back games under 40% in the playoffs against the same opponent, and now they're a favorite of 3 or more, are actually just 7-18 and 1 against the spread, covering just 28%. But you look at Memphis specifically, they're 14-6 against the spread this year after 2 or more ATS losses, and they're 17-6 against the spread in the last 2 years after 2 or more straight up losses. But shooting like that, it is kind of hard to turn around. But really, I think the biggest thing, again, that stands out to me, all three of these teams, who would have thought Grizzlies, Cavs, and Bucks, okay, maybe one, maybe two of them would be in a situation that they're fighting for their lives. But losing round one as the higher seed at home, I would definitely back all three of these teams on the money line. It's just a question of if you're going to lay the spread. And for me, it is still kind of hard to bet against LeBron James and to close out a series. But I did see 5 out of the last 6 meetings between these two teams in Memphis have stayed under the total, and 7 out of the last 12 as well. So could be looking at the under there. I like Memphis money line, but I know that's a big price to pay, obviously, unless you parlay it with like a Cavs team, for instance. And if you want to throw the Bucks in there, but again, then we're talking 11 points.
Yeah. I think you guys touched on the bounce back here for the Grizzlies side. I mean, I know the Lakers have been pretty good defensively post All-Star break. In this series, though, they're limiting the Grizz to like 41.6% from the field. Also, the Grizzlies shooting a ton of threes and only hitting 30% of them. I think I forgot who it was, but that mentioned Desmond Bane not hitting the three-point ball that well. But I think maybe there's a bounce back opportunity here tonight. During the regular season, the Grizz shot 49% from the field and 36% from three. So like I said, the bounce back, I feel like it might be here for the Grizzlies. I think the Lakers end up, obviously, I think the Lakers end up winning the series. I think me and Matt talked about this before the series even started, that there was a very good possibility of that happening. But I think that defensively, the Lakers numbers, it might seem to be that they're overachieving right now. Here, especially at home, where we know the Grizzlies play a little bit better, there's going to be a huge boost for them. So I can only look towards the Grizzlies to at least win and cover this game tonight. We'll see what happens in Game 6 or if there's even a Game 7. But one thing to mention, though, because of the parity in the league, it was more common before for lower seeds to actually be up 3-1 in the first round series. In the history of the database, 21 instances where the lower seed was 3-1 in a series. Those teams are 4-17 straight up, 8-13 against the spread, 12-8-1 to the under. So that trend there points towards the Grizzlies side tonight. And also the under, the more recent instance was that one Hawks-Knicks games that I talked about in that first series. But that trend fits the bill for the 3 games tonight, the Knicks-Cavs, this series that we're talking about, then the one that we have up next here, the Heat and the Bucks. So I would look towards the Grizzlies there. And since it's leading up to the Heat-Bucks, that's the next game here. So we'll talk about that one right now. The Heat lead that series, like I said, 3-1 as the lower seed, 1 game away from finishing off this huge upset here. I don't think a lot of people expected this at all. these guys, these teams are 4-0 to the over so far in this series as well. It seems like there's a lot of pace of play or just limited defense. Obviously, there's 2 games where Giannis didn't play. That could have been impactful as well as far as the numbers goes. But Bam is probable. Giannis expected to play as well, but we don't know how his back is gonna feel after that game 4. So Matt, let's go with you here. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, honestly, first off, you have to, talk about Jimmy Butler and what he did in the last game. Just an absolutely amazing performance. If you guys were tuning into that game, you absolutely got to see a treat because that was one of the best games I've ever seen by any player throughout the NBA. And Jimmy Butler just absolutely went off. But with that being said, I do not think he can do it again. If he does do it again, I don't know if you guys have seen that rumor. Maybe he really is Michael Jordan's son. But I don't think he's going to do it right here. I think this is going to be a Bucks spot for sure. Giannis Antetokounmpo is the best player in the league. He's the most dominant offensively. He's the most dominant defensively. And if he has one of those spots where he just gets it going, completely takes over the game, I do think this is going to be a double-digit win for the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks are down 3-1, and I believe they're around like plus 150 or maybe even lower to win the series right now. I'll have to check on that. But I still would take the Bucks to win this series. Even though Jimmy Butler absolutely went off, took over the game, this is still a Bucks team that was up 10 points on the road with a lot of their team not playing very well. Drew Holiday played absolutely terrible once again. Chris Middleton had an average game. Bobby Portis had an average game. Brook Lopez was actually the one that went off with Giannis. And if they have a more complete style basketball game, I believe they handle this Heat team by double digits, no problem. I believe the spread is at 12 right now. I don't like taking big spreads. I will not have this as an official play, but if I had to pick one way, it would definitely be with the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. I think after a game like that, you're a little bit embarrassed. You're coming back home, and you've got that fire under your ass. So I really do think that this Milwaukee Bucks team is going to go out, get this done. I think this could be one of those games that is over by halftime as well. So I'm going to be completely staying away from this in terms of same game parlays, stuff like that. If I were to do anything, though, it would be Bucks minus 12 in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, if any team is going to come back from 3-1, this Bucks team can do it. Obviously, especially with Miami struggling with injuries in that aspect, and you can't just rely on Jimmy Butler the whole time, right? From that aspect. While you were talking, you mentioned something about a double-digit line, and I looked in the database while you were talking. Double-digit favorites when they're down in the series, 9-0 straight up, 7-2 against the spread in the history of the database. So. The last 5 instances have covered. Bucks actually did it in 2019 against the Magic, so it's not new territory for them. It seems like they've done it before. They could do it again tonight. That game also went under by a huge margin. So I agree with you. My best bet is on this, so I'm gonna save it for the best bet section. But let's go to Jeff here. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, again, I think this is the question, or this is the biggest question mark in terms of that 3-1 deficit. I think that, like you guys kind of alluded to, there was talks about the Knicks upsetting the Cavs. There was talks about the Lakers upsetting the Grizzlies. But the fact that Miami is up 3-1 right now, even with Antetokounmpo's injury, is probably the most shocking. And I was looking out of the 8 teams that are going tonight, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo are the highest scoring duo in the postseason on average this year. And with that, Adebayo is only averaging 16.8 points per game. So they don't even have 2 20-plus point per game scorers. And the duo's averaging over 53 points per game. So, it goes to show you Jimmy Butler's number 2 in the postseason right now with scoring. And they've been impressive too. Not only are they 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games as an underdog, but they're 4-1 straight up in those games too. And they weren't 1.2 point underdog games that we're talking about. They're 7, 8, 9 point underdogs that they're, pulling off upsets in regards to. But you have a Miami team, you look in the big picture, what they've done all year, consistency is not something that they've excelled at. They're just 5-17 against the spread this season after 2 or more consecutive wins. And you got a Milwaukee team that, again, I sound like a broken record, but has their back against the wall on their home court, down 3-1. So you got to even win 2 to tie the series. You do have hopefully a healthy Antetokounmpo back. and they're 11-2 against the spread this season off of an upset loss as a favorite. But interestingly enough, one of those two losses is against this Heat team in the last game. That's something that stands out to me. An 11-2 ATS record is impressive, but one of the two teams that got it done this year was this Miami Heat team. With that being said, the MVP is the MVP for a reason, and you really can't put a number on the lead there, I think. So I would be going Milwaukee here. Not a premium play at this point with a -12 line, but definitely leaning towards the Bucks here tonight.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me there. All right, let's move on to this last game. But like I said, my best bet is going to be on that game, so I'll skip that for now. Let's go on to this last game here, the Warriors and the Kings. This is the only series in the first round that hit the 2-2 series score. The home team's getting it done in all four games here. Game 4 was one of the few games in these playoffs where we've seen the winner fail to cover the spread, but we have a short line here, so it almost seems like the winner should be able to cover that small spread. Obviously, the news of Fox was was big for the last couple of days. Officially listed as questionable now, but last I heard, he's likely to play through the fractured finger on his shooting hand. It's crazy because the Warriors were opened up as 1.5-point dogs, right? Then they flipped to 4.5, like as high as 4.5-point favorites after the Fox injury. And then yesterday there was news that he's going to play through the pain and be able to show up today. And they moved it down to the Warriors to be 1.5-point favorites with those updated news. But that line has been kind of going all sorts of ways right now. Don't know where to go with it for the most part, but we know that Warriors struggle on the road, right? Both offensively and defensively. But I think this Fox injury impacts the Kings a lot. Also impacts the flow of the game. Not only just, not only just how efficient the offense is going to be, but also the pace of play. Because if he has to play through pain, he's probably not going to have the ball in his hands too much to push that pace. So we might even see like more, Davion Mitchell, who's more of a defensive-minded player. But this is likely not going to be an official play. But I was thinking of maybe focusing in on the King side specifically and just taking their team total under, whether they win or lose. To me, it won't matter. It just feels like not having Fox at full strength is going to affect them. Like I said, pace of play is going to be a bit slower possibly. And then also, the offensive efficiency might take a hit as well. Jeff, what are your thoughts on that?
I do find it kind of interesting that Fox came out and said something yesterday about it. I feel like,
Yeah.
especially in the playoffs, you're usually trying to keep it hush hush. You're trying not to give them time to prepare for exactly what they're going to see. And, the fact that they had a day to prepare for Fox coming back, I think is a big benefit to Golden State. And, being able to think what you're
Mm.
going to get. But as you mentioned, I don't think you're going to get 100% De'Aaron Fox, obviously. But with that being said, I mean, Golden State, in my opinion, should feel fortunate that this series is even tied. I mean, they shot 50% still last game, but they were a 7-point favorite and only won by a point and barely missed losing that game. They're 11-4 straight up against Sacramento in the last 3 years, so they're winning the games. But Sacramento is actually 9-6 against the spread in those games. So Sacramento's covering these spreads. They're keeping them close. They're fighting. And Golden State is just 6-17 against the spread this year on the road after at least one win. So Golden State, is the team that wants to be playing at home, obviously. We've seen them play better at home. And I think just having De'Aaron Fox in the lineup is going to be an advantage for Sacramento. I mean, they've dominated the division. They're 14-6 against the spread this year against their own division. But, being able to have another option out there and not having to rely on Sabonis so much as a passing, assist man out there, and even having De'Aaron Fox who can, maybe throw some left-handed assists. I think that could be a way that we could be looking, him not be attacking the basket, not risking more injury to that hand, but looking to use, his smarts and his passing out there to facilitate and to create buckets and create baskets is a way that I think, could be a valuable option to attack. And I do think just having him on the floor as even a decoy is an advantage for this Sacramento team. So, I think I'm going with all four of the home teams here tonight and going with Sacramento, especially getting points at home And keeping that last game so
Mhm.
close in Golden State, it almost feels like this line should be a pick 'em to me.
Yeah, what do you think, Matt? What are your thoughts on this one? Do you think the Fox injury? I mean, it's his shooting hand, right? A fractured finger in his shooting hand. If I looked at it correctly, I think it was his index finger, which is typically the last finger that rolls off of the ball, right? I mean, he was talking about it in the interview. He has to feel that when he releases a ball. But if he's wearing that little piece on it, could affect the offense, right? What are your thoughts on this game here?
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I read that article last night in which De'Aaron Fox came out, said that he definitely did have a broken finger, and typically he would be out 1 to 2 weeks. And if it wasn't the playoffs, he would be sitting out. But it's obviously the playoffs. You got to go on. And he basically said he's going to be playing through the pain, everything along those lines. And, to both of your points, I do think it is a benefit, obviously, to the Sacramento Kings just having De'Aaron Fox on the court. Is it going to affect him? Yeah, I think it has to because De'Aaron Fox has definitely been getting his 3-point shot going as of late. He's not known for being a 3-point shooter, but he's been hitting those step back 3-point shots. And if that is your shooting hand, then yeah, I would imagine that does affect you, and it could potentially cause Fox to have less points tonight, stuff like that. But with the Kings, one thing that we've talked about all season long is the amount of scorers that they have, the amount of shooters that they have on that team. And my best bet is from this game as well. And I guess might as well just keep rolling into that because it's a main point of mine, and it's Kevin Huerter over 14.5 points. And Kevin Huerter has
Like,
been kind of quiet this series so far. And this is the spot. If your star player is hurt, potentially not going to be able to take as many shots in this game, then you got to look to guys like Kevin Huerter to step up, Malik Monk, Harrison Barnes, Davion Mitchell, all those role players who have been pretty solid from shooting outside this series. Another guy obviously that needs to step up a little bit is Domantas Sabonis. He has been playing well, but I think he does need to also facilitate a little bit more too, just in case Fox can't do that with his finger. It's going to be a feeling out process out there. I don't know exactly what Fox is going to do, just like he might not know exactly what he's going to be able to do until he feels that pain, until he starts dribbling the basketball, passing it, shooting it, stuff like that. But if there is a team that has enough scoring options to still continue to get this done, I think it's the Sacramento Kings. So once again, I am going to be with the Kings here. You guys know I've been backing the Kings all season long, all through the playoffs. But this is very similar to me than game 1 and game 2. Game 1, underdog, won. Game 2, underdog, won. People love to doubt this Kings team, and I very much understand how fun the Warriors are. They're that sexy team with Steph Curry, with Klay Thompson. These guys just pulling up from all over the place. But this is still a team that was 11-30 against the spread or straight up on the road this season, and they're 0-2 in the playoffs. It's kind of, they got to prove it to me. Prove it to me that you can go out on the road and beat a playoff caliber team. The Warriors have not done that yet, and even though they've added Andrew Wiggins to the lineup, it's not like they're playing exceptional defense. This Kings team is still getting it done. So for me, I'm definitely going to be with the Kings in the spot, and the guy that I'm going to be looking to with my best bet today also is going to be Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter is one of the streakiest shooters throughout the NBA. He's only hit this in one game so far in this playoff series against the Golden State Warriors. He's one of the best three-point shooters in this for the Sacramento Kings or throughout the league. He runs that pick and roll very, very well with Domantas Sabonis, that high pick and roll, and the Warriors do like to play drop defense sometimes. So if De'Aaron Fox is hurt, not handling the ball as much, I expect a lot from Kevin Huerter coming off that pick and roll with Domantas Sabonis, pulling up from the three-point line, getting into his mid-range, hitting some of those mid-range shots. I think he's going to be far more active tonight, and it's essentially because he needs to be, and this Kings team desperately needs this win at home. So for me, one more time, it's the Kings money line, and it is Kevin Huerter over 14.5 points.
I like it. Yeah, he has to bounce back here. Jeff, what is your best bet? I think you're doing a prop play as well, right?
Yeah, you want to talk about bounce back? You want to talk about feeling like a similar situation to game 1 and game 2? Hey, I'm feeling it. I'm not going to the same game, but I'm going to that Cleveland Knicks game, and I'm looking Donovan Mitchell tonight over 34.5 points and assists, sitting at minus 115, and I think that's a good price. I alluded to it earlier. I think that there's a room for somebody on this Cavs team to go off. I do feel like it's going to be Donovan Mitchell, But even looking at his assist numbers recently and the potential opportunity for the big men to go off, because I think they're due as well in Cleveland, I think it gives him an opportunity to pick up assists there too. I mean, he played 42 minutes in the last game and he put up just 11 points. And he's had 5+ assists in all 4 games in the series so far. But you look at the first 2 games in Cleveland, he's averaging 38 points in assists per game. He had 21 assists in those first 2 games combined. He had 13 and he had 8 in the first 2 in Cleveland. And he ended the regular season with 4 straight games of 40+ points. So we know he's capable of doing it, obviously. And he almost had another one in game 1, and in his Cleveland tenure, he's played pretty well at home against this Knicks team. I mean, he's hit this number in 3 out of the last 4. And if you go back to Utah, he's hit it in 4 out of the last 5. You look what he's done against the Knicks this season, regular season this year. He averaged over 39 points and assists combined, 31.8 points and 7.5 assists in those games. And I also mentioned this quickly earlier with Trae Young too, but back against the wall kind of performance, it takes something special. We saw Trae put up 38 and 13. And even though Minnesota lost yesterday, I mean, Anthony Edwards put up 29, 8 and 7, and Cat put up 26 and 11. So we've seen what these big stars can do with these, in these must-win situations, especially at home here for Cleveland. So I like Donovan Mitchell, 34.5 points and assists, leaving those assists open because we know he can get double-digit assists too to, extra cushion there as well. So for the value, we're going to throw those assists in there, and I'm going over 34.5 points and assists for Donovan Mitchell tonight.
Yeah, they're gonna really have to. He's gonna have to bounce back a lot. The big thing is he's been turning over the ball a lot as well. So as long as he takes care of the ball, he'll have those opportunities. He's obviously gonna have the usage here with their back against the wall. My best bet here is actually gonna be on the Heat team total under. Obviously, Jimmy Butler, playoff Jimmy here has been balling out of control for Miami. But if you look at it, he has not hit a 40+ game all season long. Last season, he did it 4 times. All 4 games that he did it was in the playoffs. And in the following games, the Heat were 1-3 straight up, 1-3 against the spread. Also 3-1 to the under. If you look at this team specifically now, the way that they're put together, outside of Jimmy, there really wasn't much support from any of the role players until maybe the fourth quarter of that game, where obviously it's just a historic game from Jimmy Butler, but I think the Bucks are gonna make it a point to stop Jimmy tonight and make the other guys win the game. But there really is no second guy on this squad at the moment with Tyler Herro hurt, obviously, and then Bam, he can't really do anything with Giannis and Brook Lopez protecting the paint there. So if they stop Jimmy, I don't know where that support is gonna come from. They're gonna have like 10, the rest of the guys basically put up double digits for the most part, because just outside of Jimmy, I don't know who could hit 20-point mark themselves. So otherwise, I just can see the Heat staying under the century mark. To be honest, I don't know if they hit 100 points if they stop Jimmy. I also think the Bucks, if you want to look at it if you want to pivot, I think the Bucks come out strong with a sense of urgency early and dominate that first quarter as well here at home. Obviously, that trend that I mentioned earlier, the double-digit favorites down in the series, points towards the Bucks as well. So if you like the Bucks, lean towards that way. That's a trend that supports you. But I'm going to look towards the Heat team total under. I think they struggle offensively tonight against the Bucks. With that said, guys, that's our best bets. We broke down all 4 games today. Next show will be Friday with myself, Matt, and Tony Finn. Make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button, and then after you do that, head straight to sportsmemo.com and see what we got going on over there. We got the live odds pages, the free picks, free analysis, and also the picks in packages available from all our Sports Memo handicappers. Until Friday, guys, our next show, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard on the same channel. Good luck with our reaction. Till next time, peace.
Play ball. Hot off the press, handicappers from Wager Talk, Sports Memo, and the Gold Sheet have collaborated on the 2023 Wager Talk Media MLB Betting Guide. From World Series odds to regular season win totals and everything in between, this year's betting guide features previews on all 30 teams, all 6 divisions, and season-long awards like the Cy Young, MVP, and Rookie of the Year. Each preview contains key roster acquisitions and departures to help you get up to speed before opening day. Visit wt.buzz/MLB23 to download your free guide, and we'll see you in the batter's box.